Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Karin Helmstedt.
Greetings from the German capital and welcome to our highlights edition, which kicks off this time with a fantasy expedition in western France. But first, in keeping with tradition, a look at our topics. Famous freestyler Kilian Martine is a celebrated skateboarder from Spain. Sweet success, Christine Ferreira makes gourmet jams in France. Capital Creations' David Clarke is a groundbreaking silversmith from London. Well, he was a pioneer of science fiction and took us to fantasy worlds with novels like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Around the World in 80 Days. French author Jules Verne was born in 1828 in Nantes in western France, and to this day that city is inspired by his legacy. Well, one landmark artist troupe from there is the Compagnie La Machine, and their latest project fuses the imaginary worlds of Verne, the mechanics of Leonardo da Vinci, and the industrial history of Nantes into one mind-blowing merry-go-round.
Soaring with a flying fish, or riding the back of a sea monster. That's what kids and grown-ups can do on a 3-story carousel in the French port city of Nantes. The marine world's merry-go-round is 25 meters high and 22 meters in diameter. It's the brainchild of artist François de la Rosière, who designed and developed it with his colleagues, and producer Pierre Orefis, who took care of everything from ergonomics to safety.
This carousel is a confrontation of materials, a mix of fish and machine, of the living and the mechanical. The questions it evokes inspire people's imaginations. We do this to get people to dream.
In his science fiction classic 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Nantes native Jules Verne once delved into fantastic undersea worlds. Ships and sea serpents on the ocean's surface. Eerie silent giants in the murky depths. Mysterious creatures on the sea floor sweep the riders off to another world, to an interactive world. Every vehicle can be moved independently.
Movement is what's essential to us. Movement is life. Stopping is death. Movement creates emotions, triggers it. Making our vehicles mobile allows people on the carousel to make up their own little stories.
The Marine World's Carousel is also a tribute to Nantes' maritime legacy. The company La Machine has its studios in the old shipyards. Depending on the project, 40 to 50 people from various professions, ranging from designers to craftspeople and technicians, work together here. The designers build their machines themselves. It's a creative process involving teamwork, trial and error, and development.
Drawing is just the starting point. People who work here are highly attuned to their materials, wood and metal and so on. So everyone puts something of their knowledge and their dedication into the object, which enriches the whole thing.
The carousel is part of the tourist attraction Machines of the Isle of Nantes. Its first ever attraction was the Great Elephant, which can carry up to 49 people.
This was all done in Nantes, because there isn't any other city in Europe with just the right degree of craziness for a project like this.
It remains to be seen if Nantes is crazy enough to approve La Machine's next major project planned for 2018, the Heron Tree. If so, it'll set new standards both financially and technologically. The installation is projected to reach 28 meters in height and more than 30 million euros in cost. The Marine World's Carousel ran up a bill of some 10 million euros. It makes 8 euros back with every rider.
It's an incredible feeling to have changed the image of the city with this object forever. The harbor and the city of Nantes are now inseparable from the marine world's carousel.
The Carousel officially opened on Bastille Day, July 14th.
It's very high. It's so beautiful the way the light shines out of it.
The machines of the aisle cast a spell on you. You turn into a big child.
More and more they're becoming landmarks for Nantes. The elephant, the marine world's carousel, and later on the heron tree. They attract people and harmonize with the city's character.
The marine world's carousel, the latest monument to the imagination of the city of Nantes.
Well, now to a young man who says he feels like he has electricity inside him and that energy simply has to get out. So Killian Martine of Madrid, Spain, spends most of his day on a skateboard. Now, for people on the skating scene, the 24-year-old is the most original freestyler they've seen in years. And millions of fans gape in wonder at his daring stunts in his artfully filmed videos on the internet.
When Kilian Martin dances with his board, it's almost like figure skating or acrobatics. Martin was born in Madrid. Fans the world over admire his unique approach, a mix of street skating and freestyle.
I see myself more as an artist than an athlete. Some aspects of what I do could be considered sport, others are absolutely art, especially the process of creating new tricks.
Kilian Martin was already 16 when he took up skateboarding, but he made up for lost time with his skill and inventiveness. When he's in Madrid, he practices in this park, where he's a local hero and a great role model. He started gymnastics at the age of 10.
For 4 or 5 years, I trained every Tuesday and Thursday. I would come by here on the way to the sports hall. One day, a friend said, "Why don't you try skateboarding? You like surfing, so try skating." There used to be a ramp over there. I just loved it.
Since then, skateboarding has been his all-consuming passion. His notebook is always on hand, even at night, to jot down new ideas, like a routine involving 2 boards at the same time. The 2-board trick figures in this new video, Altered Route. He made it with director Brett Novak in the Mojave Desert in the United States. Killian has lived in California for the past few years, but returns home to Spain regularly to see friends and family. He and Daniel have been friends for 8 years. As kids, they used to skate together. For Daniel, it's still a hobby. Killian makes a living from skating.
He's a real artist. What he does is unique. The others just do what they see in videos. The same thing all the time. He takes tricks from the 80s and 90s and turns them into something entirely new.
When Kilian Martin performs, people stop on their tracks. Some hardcore skateboarders criticize him for what they say amounts to selling out to the mainstream. Killian doesn't care. He's not bound by skating trends.
If you're doing it for any other reasons than for the joy of skating, for money, for the wrong reasons, then it can feel like work, like a regular job. But if you do it just for the sake of it, then it's like playing, like having fun.
Kilian's routines are often inspired by their location. This video was shot in Barcelona. And he'll soon be heading to Austria to shoot a new one.
I don't like to say exactly where I'm going to skate next. I like it to be a surprise when the video is released. Like with a snake, you never know when it's going to strike.
Killian Martine is always on the road with his board. He won't talk about long-term goals. He just wants to dance and skate for as long as it's fun.
Well, if sidewalk painting still conjures up the image of the starving artist brightening up that pedestrian zone for a few coins in his hat, it's time to think again, because today street painting is big business, honoured with numerous festivals all over the world. Germany's Edgar Müller specialises in 3D paintings, and his images will literally stop you in your tracks.
The Crevasse is Edgar Müllers arguably most famous work. More than 6 million people watched it being created on YouTube. His latest painting in London is also likely to become a crowd puller. Edgar Müller first entered a street art competition at the age of 16 and has never looked back. The German street artist has specialized in creating 3D images.
Kaum ein Mensch erwartet ein Bild auf dem Boden.
Few people expect to see a picture on the pavement, and if it's only a small picture, then most people will just walk by. 3D images are very big. They arouse interest because they don't make sense when viewed from the side, and people ask, "What's that?" I can't interpret it, but it looks like a picture. And when they look through the lens, there's this big aha effect. And that means people spend longer looking at the picture.
Müller didn't study art. He taught himself the basics of 3D painting. To create the illusion of three-dimensionality in his new work, Evolution, he created a number of lines running across the picture with the help of ropes. They all come together at a set point, the central or vanishing point. This is where Edgar Müller also installs a special lens that he's developed. It makes the picture look even more three-dimensional.
Most people have never come across a picture like this. They don't know where to stand. The lens attracts them to the right spot right away and enables them to see the whole picture, the whole scene immediately. It's a 180-degree lens.
Street painting is now featured at festivals throughout the world, but its roots go back to 16th century Italy. Back then, street painters painted images of the Madonna in return for small sums of money, and were dubbed Madonnari. Nowadays, it's 3D pavement art that attracts most of the attention. The big names in the scene are the British artists Julian Beever and Joe Hill, but also Edgar Müller from Germany. He's regularly paid to contribute to advertising campaigns. The assignments enable him to finance his own artwork.
For a start, everyone's talking about 3D. 3D cinema is pretty new, and that's probably got something to do with it, although it's a completely different technique. But for most people, 3D is 3D. Many think that they have to wear those special bicolored glasses. But for young people, it doesn't have this kind of dusty Rembrandt replica feel. It feels modern.
But this artistic genre involves battling with the heavens. Time and time again, rain has destroyed his work. If the paint, in this case household emulsion, isn't completely dry, a downpour will wash away parts of the 8 by 18 meter square painting. It's exhausting.
It's a test of patience and physically tiring. But I know how I feel when it's complete. And that keeps me going when I have those moments when I think I've had enough and I'm going to stop. That's when I think, carry on, carry on. It's like when you hit the wall in a marathon and you have to get beyond it.
Wenn die Mauer kommt, weiter, weiter, weiter.
The painting was meant to be completed today, but rain has delayed work. But his audience is fascinated anyway.
I've seen some things of his work on internet before. Yeah, I've heard his name before. And it's really cool seeing it in real life.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. They've just redone this whole square, so we spent quite a bit of money getting it all replanted and repaved. So to have something like this down, especially for the Olympics, is brilliant. Really, really, really excited. Can't wait to see how it turns out.
I know today was meant to be the unveiling of it, and obviously the weather and the elements have got the better of us. And he keeps on painting over it as well, which is what's so upsetting for him, but it's not going to dampen his spirits.
Thanks to a lot of willpower and long hours, Edgar Müller manages to finish his work just one day late. You can see Evolution in London's Portobello Road until the end of July.
Well, in culinary circles, Christine Ferreira goes by the name of the Jam Queen. And from her native Alsace, she supplies the likes of Galeries Lafayette and the Hotel Georges V in Paris with her gourmet jams and jellies. Now, apparently, she's also held in the highest regard by star chefs like Alain Ducasse. So we went to see for ourselves just how she does it.
Black cherries with violet flowers, apples with caramel, blueberries with licorice. Christine Ferreira's jams and jellies are enticing. Ferreira's made quite a name for herself with her preserves, far beyond the boundaries of her native France. Christine Ferreira's small pastry shop in the town of Niedermoschwir at the foot of the Vosges Mountains has been in her family for 4 generations. Her jams are made in the rooms behind the shop. Christine makes small batches using only fruit that is in season. She's created more than 850 different kinds of jam. Sometimes they're a bit exotic, sometimes conventional, like this raspberry jam.
It's a simple recipe, the classic one I learned from my mother and grandmother.
She boils the fruit down in specially made copper pans that cost 1,000 euros each. A scientist friend of hers discovered that copper utensils are the best for the job. Christine considers jam making an art.
I love colors, and colors give me lots of energy. When I cook, I imagine a texture and a certain color in the pot. I stir until the vision or image I have in my mind appears in the pot.
Et j'articule tout mon travail pour obtenir la vision que j'ai dans ma tête.
The quality of Christine Ferreira's jams has earned her the title Reine de la Confiture, or Queen of Jam.
La reine des confitures ou la fée des confitures.
Jam queen or preserves fairy, that's what others call me. But I like that. It's better than marmalade cook or something. Fairy or queen, it's wonderful.
La fée, c'est magnifique. Ou la reine, c'est magnifique.
But she points out that she's a very hard-working queen. Christine Ferreira sells her jams in her pastry shop and by mail order all over the world. A 220-gram glass costs about 9 euros. Christine is also a successful author. She's published the secrets of her jam and jelly recipes in several books. And she's given classes in producing jam in France, Italy, the United States, and even Japan. Christine is out in her garden, whatever the weather, checking the ripeness of fruit. For jam, they have to be picked before they're too ripe. She prefers locally grown fruit for her products, either from her own garden or from regional farms. Back in the kitchen, 4 kilos of fruit produce about 20 jars of jam. Christine Ferreira's regular customers include famous names like the 2 French star chefs Alain Ducasse and Paul Bocuse, as well as Pierre Hermé, whose pastry shop is considered one of Paris's finest.
The fact that people keep returning and saying, oh, they're good, and buying jams again, and the fact that I have worldwide recognition may mean I'm doing something right.
Mais ça vous dit peut-être que c'est bien ce que je fais.
lot of work goes into each and every jar. Christine Faber's order list is long, and she has plenty of new recipes lined up.
Well, it's an unlikely field in which to be a renegade, but David Clarke is considered Britain's enfant terrible of silversmithing. Now, Clarke works with old silver in the form of antique cutlery and tableware, and then he changes it or remodels it to make objects that often seem to break all the accepted rules.
Soap bubbles made of pure silver. An oversized spoon. David Clarke creates new things out of old. His art is full of humor and is intended to inspire us to think.
The things that I'm looking for within the objects I respond to is hopelessness. The pieces that I buy are closest to the bin and the most unwanted pieces. So it's almost giving it a second chance and hopefully a better chance.
Clarke buys unwanted objects on the internet. He saws them into pieces, takes parts out, and reassembles them differently. Sometimes just minimal changes can breathe new life into an object. The silversmith tries to make a fresh statement with each piece.
The whole thing with trends and this movement and shifting between objects becoming redundant very quickly, I think is a great shame. Because I think they're things that can enhance the everyday. And for me to take a manufactured object and change someone's everyday is a fantastic opportunity to have.
7 years ago, Clarke became bored with his traditional way of working as a silversmith. He started experimenting with new materials and forms. Clarke will even refashion his own creations when they start to become stale for him.
So this is pretty much done. What's happened is that it now has a matte finish, not a polished finish, which I think takes away the scariness that traditional silversmithing has when it's a very highly polished surface. What I like is that there's still evidence of the making, and actually, where it comes to the feet, that wasn't intentional. So that's a happy mistake.
David Clarke's studio lies directly on the Regent's Canal in London's East End. It's an area known for its diversity and multiculturalism. Clarke says much of his work is inspired by his surroundings.
What's fantastic about London is that it goes through historical change. And my journey from my home to the workshop goes through a kind of mix. And that mix I really see within the work. So it's from the ornate to the almost minimal, from the mix of the hierarchy of materials to hierarchy of class and class structure.
Indeed, many of Clarke's works play with the concept of hierarchy and rank. He likes combining less valuable metals like lead or tin with silver. Clarke says the mix enhances rather than dilutes the quality. This is going to be a spoon made of both silver and pewter, a combination that would be unthinkable in traditional craftsmanship. Clarke has named it Greedy Spoon, referring to diners who can never get enough. His new collection is called More or Less. The various works all deal with the theme of greed.
The materials that I use are really important because for me, I play with the hierarchy of metals, and silver becomes very, very high, and I like to mix that and bring its hierarchy down to a more common level. So I can use salt, I can use lead, I can use pewter, all sorts of different materials. And to mix it is really important for me.
David Clarke has important things to discuss with his art dealer, Claire Madison. They're preparing for his next exhibition in Stockholm in early September. Madison and Clarke have known each other for a long time.
The thing we normally have to do for people who haven't seen Dave's work before is just tell them that it's not frightening. And because it's silver, you don't have to be really precious about it. Yes, there's value and there's skill, but it's not value and skill that's off-putting. These are things that you're meant to get to know them and to hold them and to really look around them. and to play with them.
David Clarke's works, like this bizarre take on a teapot, are meant to be handled. And they're meant to bring a smile to the face of the beholder.
And that's all for this edition of our Euromaxx highlights. So until we meet again, all the best from us in Berlin and auf Wiedersehen.